Welcome everybody to another episode of Third Coast Gaming Radio. Today I've got some impressions of... I've been playing some Battlefield 2042. They've had their beta up. I think it was just last weekend. And I'm joined by Austin Taylor. Hello.
Howdy.
Hey, have you been seeing the talk about the Battlefield
I have
beta?
no.
No? It's a
I had
little
a friend.
rough.
I had a friend who tried to get me into the beta, and I was like, there are other things happening this weekend that I want to mess with that are not Battlefield, so I did not.
Um, it's everything that they've kind of shown off in that teaser trailer is what was in the beta, because you see a lot of those trailers coming out being a summary of it, but I'm guessing the reason they haven't shown a lot of... I mean, they've shown gameplay and stuff, but this beta build, it sounds like it's either like 2 months old, or it is just kind of... or the game is kind of janky right now, but it is janky. I was playing it on a Series S, and it was chugging. Did you play Warzone when it first dropped?
Yeah, I played a good amount of Warzone when it first dropped.
I would compare it to the kind of jank that was in Warzone, because they have like 120-ish people on the server. I think it's 128 now instead of 64, and you can really feel the extra people on there, in the sense that like a lot of people have bugs and just lag. But like, okay, so for example, you have like customization options on your guns that when I just press like R2, I think, or
Yeah.
when I press a button, I can bring up all my customization, and I can flip between them with like triangle. I can change my scopes on the fly, and then like barrel sizes and suppressors and different magazines. Like I can get like high powered magazines, but whenever I was flipping through them, it would bug out and not equip the right one,
hmm
or it would like just be really weird with... I would try and select one, and it wouldn't let me actually equip it, and I'd have to go back into it and try and reselect it. So there's a couple of those things, but besides like the amount of bugs that I've seen, I think it is really interesting how Battlefield has like put itself as a different game as the new game they're putting out compared to like Battlefield 5 and the old ones. Like I can bring up a iPad at any time and request vehicles that will like kind of like drop down with parachutes.
Yeah.
So there'll be like... there can only be like 4 tanks on the map, and then there can only be like 10 Jeeps, and then they have a bunch of those like Boston Dynamics dogs that are running around that are like AI controlled and will follow you and shoot people.
hmm
So I think you can have like 8 of those or something. And then the sandbox feels like a lot bigger. Like it feels like I would compare it to like, you know, we've played Apex before, and you're just kind of running around trying to shoot people. But instead I have like these bigger areas we're trying to control, so I'm running in with like 20 dudes trying to go to an area. And they have done something different with the map layout, to where normally there's like 5 objectives kind of spread out like equally apart from each other, so that there's not fights between them. Now there are these like heavily centered like fight areas where they will have like 2 or 3 objectives in them. And to control that zone of Bravo, you need Bravo 1, Bravo 2, and Bravo 3. And in that cluster, there has always been more people and more tanks driving around shooting at people. And it is really interesting like how much more kind of weird like warfare chaos, I would call it, goes on in those areas. And then you have like regular stuff off to the side, like Charlie and Alpha and Delta, which are kind of by itself, and you'll run to and play your normal tug of war, which has been really cool. I think if you're into like all the battle royale stuff that has come out, has definitely made people more into the idea of like a bigger map, in my opinion. I'm I'm trying to think what else. There are the new specialist classes too are pretty interesting. Normally you'd pick between like one of your four classes, and now you have these. The classes are in the beta was basically the four specialists, and then they would have a set equipment. Like the sniper would have a drone.
Yeah.
There's this one guy who had a turret he would throw down. Someone had like a healing shot they would do. You can heal like teammates, or you can shoot it at the ground and heal yourself. And then there's another person who had the grappling hook. And then you can completely change their loadouts. Like I can make the grappling hook guy a sniper, and then I can have a rocket launcher, and you can just kind of play with that loadout way more than you used to.
Yeah, so
where they were kind of constricting stuff.
Yeah, when you say loadout, do you mean like you can change a character's like guns that they're carrying, or you can like fully change their kit? That includes like the grappling hook.
So the specific character who has the grappling hook, he can only use the grappling hook.
Okay.
And then you're changing the guns. Then you have like a primary and secondary gadget, which are in a pool. One of them was like a rocket launcher, a health kit box, an ammo kit box, a anti-air rocket launcher, and then there's a couple of other ones I remember, but those are all locked into one pool, and so you have to pick between them. And then there's another set of like grenades you could change, and they have like a motion sensor grenade you can throw, which I was having fun with. To where I would just go into a building and throw it at the ground right when I get into it, and they'll kind of ping on the mini map, which has been kind of cool.
That's nice.
Yeah. I think this is going to be really interesting. I don't know if it's going to launch really buggy, because that's what happened with Battlefield 5, is that it came out and there was a lot of internet connection problems and like some jank in the first couple weeks, and I think Battlefield 4 was the same way. I think 1 was the only one that came out and didn't really have a lot of that stuff going on. The crossplay was interesting because I turned it off at some point, and I loaded into like an Xbox only match pretty much, and it started out and it filled the whole match with bots, so I was just messing around kind of having fun with bots, and then it just started filling it with people who were only on Xbox as well. And I think there's going to be sides, like I do want to go make matches where I'm only playing against bots, so I can be like a shitty action hero or just, it's like a nice way to test weapons too, honestly. Like I would love to go into an all bot match with a sniper rifle and figure out the aiming distances of stuff, where like you're in a gun range like a lot of these games had, but it's definitely different to be playing against targets that are moving and doing their own objectives, and to practice on stuff like that. If this goes on sale, do you think you're going to pick it up at some point, Austin? Because I know you're not like a big Battlefield guy.
I mean, the thing is like for me to pick it up in such a way where like we could like play it effectively together, right? I would need to look at like the PC specs for it, because I think like my PC is getting pretty long in the tooth here, and like I need to do an upgrade at some point. And like that market is just terrible right now. So that's not happening anytime soon, or that would require me to buy like a new console. And again, that's probably not happening anytime soon.
That's true. I didn't get to touch the older gen versions, but it seems like those ones are pretty rough, even capped at like, those ones just have like 64 players, and it sounds like those ones are not good versions at all.
I'm sure it's not great.
No, they did make a change actually, which I thought was really interesting. Originally, you could only get the like the Series X version and the Xbox One version if you bought the $80 pack. It's either the $80 or the $90 pack. I think it's the gold edition. Yeah, it's $90. I'm pretty sure, because the standard Series S version is $70. And so with that $70 version, I only got the Series X version, but they changed it, being like, hey, if you buy the PS5 version of this, you just get the PS4 version for free, which makes sense because I think they have cross save between those two. So if you have friends you're playing with on PS4, you can go mess with it. I'm sure at some point those older versions and like the newer versions are gonna, if they all launch at a weird point, I'm sure they're gonna patch them to make them play better. That's kind of what happened with Battlefield 5, is it had a weird couple of weeks and everything just started getting better as those post day one patches were kind of rolling out, and they kind of smoothed that stuff out. But I would definitely go back and, like, me personally, like, I would go mess around on the 64 player servers because it's a different experience in a way. But yeah, going back to PC specs, I think like Halo Infinite being like I think the big team was like 12 on 12, and I'm sure that ran way better on your PC than like Battlefield would.
Yeah, it's just, you know, and the other thing is like Halo does not have, or like it's based off the beta, like Infinite is not trying to do like these sort of environmental um, elements that 2042 seems to be relying on to sort of to help sell the game on like very quickly and like first impressions regarding like how what's the term they used to use for this, like levolution, right?
Oh,
And like in the way that like
yeah.
that's advances and like changes the way the game plays.
Yeah, so far in the beta, not a lot of the buildings had a lot of like destructibility in them. You can kind of, take a grenade launcher out and like put a hole in a wall or something.
Yeah.
And I think on the map we played, there was like a what I would call an equivalent to like uh, there's like a rocket ship in the middle of the map that launched at some point, and it created a bunch of smoke that it kicked up on the map. That one wasn't as cool, but this is the map. They did use the hurricane on this map,
Yeah.
or like the tornado that kicked through. So when the tornado starts on the map, it'll start at one of the corners and just kind of come through on a set like line, pretty much. And when you're respawning, you'll see it has like an icon of like a tornado. It's almost it's like a circle with some parts missing from it, and then it shows you its area of like disturbance. So if you're spawning, you can kind of see where to spawn from it. But I threw myself from a vehicle, like a jet, into the tornado, and I got on my parachute, and it doesn't kill you, but if it picks stuff up from the ground like a vehicle that hits you, it'll probably kill you. But a bunch of people were just riding it. So I was shooting other people who got picked up by the tornado while I was in it. And then I used it to land to a farther off objective, which was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And but so the conquest length is a lot longer. Normally the matches are like 20 minutes because there were less tickets, but these are lasting a lot longer. So I think they throw that tornado down like in the middle of it. Kind of like, you said you've played a decent amount of like Battlefield 1, right?
Yeah, I played pretty late into its life cycle, played a good few weeks of Battlefield 1 and a bit of Battlefield 5.
It's almost like when those like Titan vehicles would show up in Battlefield 1.
Yeah, like a big train.
Yeah, and then one of them had like a giant blimp. They seem like they're a fun way to mess with the normal like match that's going on, just kind of create some kind of element of chaos, or like I wish they would bring those Titan things back in a way. I thought they were really cool in Battlefield 1.
Yeah.
And there's actually, sorry, go for it.
Well, they were helpful in like because I think in certain game modes when they show up, most of their function was like it would go to or would be controlled by the losing team, and that provides an opportunity to like have this very powerful um, sort of equalizer that mayhaps will give you the chance to push back and reverse your chances. You know.
Yeah, and I think some of them you could just spawn wherever it was at. So if the Titan vehicle was at like an enemy objective, you could spawn on it, and there would be people like dropping out of it, helping you like push the objective too. And there's an old mode. in from Battlefield 2142. I think this was the one they put out after Battlefield 2 on PC only, kind of before they were doing their console stuff with Bad Company and then Battlefield 3 and onward. There was like I think it was called like a Titan mode where you had two giant aircraft carriers and you had a couple objectives on the map, and your goal was to get into the enemy's aircraft carrier and destroy it. Pretty much, it was almost like the flying Avengers like ship that they have in Avengers 1.
Yeah.
So, and then you could like shoot vehicles out of it, like, and you had mech suits and stuff, and you had like laser rail guns. And I hope at some point there's a sequel to that comes to consoles where they get to mess around with that stuff again. But right now with 2042 at launch, they're just going to do their capture the objectives conquest mode, and then they have a breakthrough mode, which is like one team's attacking, one team's defending, and the attackers get both of the enemy's objectives, and it pushes a line of the battlefield backwards into the enemy's territory, and if the attackers do that 4 times, they'll win. So it's a very chaotic, like, it's going to be like 64 against 64, almost like the did you play MAG on PS3, or have you ever heard of that?
Oh, I've heard of it. I've never played it.
Yeah, I think that one was 256, but it was more of like you pushing a line back and forth instead of like spread out objectives and stuff, from what I remember. I think that one was free. I hope Battlefield puts out like a free mode, because back in the day with Battlefield 2, they would just have one conquest map available, like as a demo or a trial, even after the game came out, to like draw people in to mess with it. So I hope they have just like a free mode where anybody could download it, and this map is like available like in the paid servers, so it's just available to anyone who's playing it and stuff. Or maybe it's only available to the free people, so that they're all at like level 1 and they don't have all the good weapons like the other players do. But I think that'd be like an interesting thing that I was kind of thinking about too.
Yeah, I mean, well, that'd be like ideally that's sort of what you would use the like the other like Battlefield project they're doing, that like that platform, right? Not necessarily like 2042, but that other like multiplayer project that they're focusing on right now.
Yeah, they have 2 of them. One of them, let me take a look at what they were again. I didn't write them down, but one of them is like the server-based one that has a bunch of different game modes. Let's see. The other one is Hazard Zone. That one's like a squad-based one, kind of combining like a battle royale and like stuff you would kind of know from Battlefield. So I'm hoping Hazard Zone is the one that's going to be free, but I could also see the server-based one where you can just kind of make custom game modes. That seems like a good idea to be free as well. I think it's called Portal Mode, but I think we'll see after this game comes out, if they want to dip into the free-to-play stuff, they kind of have the option to do like release something off to the side.
Yeah, so like I guess that's like we're gonna have to wait for this game to come out to like really see that, because I could, like, if I were, if I was behind this project, I would sort of think that that'd be a good idea, but maybe they want to see what their sales numbers look like, and if they're good enough, they might not offer like this sort of free option, and or maybe if they're good enough, they might anyway. It's business in the games industry is a very funny thing, very fickle.
Yeah, because like we saw, like when they dropped Apex the day of, they had people coming by the week before, and it's just been doing great sales ever since, and that's like such a tight game. And I hope EA sees that being in their catalog, being like, yeah, we could totally put out a free thing off to the side, like how Warzone was, to where like people who had Modern Warfare didn't have to get a separate game to install Warzone, but for anyone else who didn't own Warzone, they could just or who owned Modern Warfare, they could just install Warzone. So I hope after these, what I would call the first month of sales goes, which there's so much negative stuff going out right now after this beta came out, and it's as usual, the hardcore fans are complaining about not liking the specialists, calling the map bland, that the one map they showed off, and then the build is really rough. The only thing I care about in that is that I'm actually hoping this is an older build, because it was unplayable to a certain point. Like I played it for a day or two for a couple hours, and I was like, I don't want to mess with this anymore, because it was kind of giving me anxiety, because I was like, I've been looking forward to this game.
Yeah.
So I just went off and played some Battlefield 5 instead, and then on a side tangent, like Hell Let Loose is out on Xbox for like $40, and I'm like, I could, but I don't want to talk to people, and that's that whole game shtick. Is it's a World War II shooter with like heavy communications integration.
Yeah, where like you need to be like, depending on the role you're playing in that game, whether that be like a squad commander or like the larger commander, you need to be like reading a map constantly and communicating with a lot of people like across the map. I believe that there's a headline that was like Hell Let Loose asks 50 people to walk together or die, right?
Yeah, and pretty much from what I've heard, I've dipped into a couple of videos about people talking about it. Is definitely it. If your commanders aren't putting down your respawning points, you have to spawn at camp and walk like 5 minutes before you even touch a battle.
Yeah, on these absolutely huge maps.
Yeah, and I'm totally enticed by that, but that's not something I would rather play that with like 2 other people and try and do that, besides doing it by myself, because I'd rather, like, Battlefield is so easy to play by myself, because I just go grab a sniper kit or like a light machine gun and go have some fun. Yeah, I think, that's definitely how I'm on Battlefield right now. I hope so. It got pushed from October to November. I think it's around the middle of November right now. Let me get that confirmed date. But I just ended up pre-ordering it because I'm probably gonna play it. Yes, November 19th. Normally, what happened last time is Battlefield 5 came out. It was reviewing like 7s and 8s, and there was a lot of press coming out talking about the problems with the servers, and then fans were angry about the stuff coming out from the trailer. And so I think a month after that game was out, it dropped, and you could get it for like $40. So I think that's when I got Battlefield 5. But I don't know. I pre-ordered it, and you can get it if you have EA Play. You can get it cheaper. So I got it for $63 plus tax instead of $70. Which EA Play comes with my Ultimate sub, and then like for people on just regular EA Play on like PC or PlayStation 4, they'll get a discount too. But hey, I hope it's cool when it comes out. But the beta was okay. I'm glad it gave me like a little look into like how everything kind of works out, and I'm excited if the server is stable and it's like a stable 60 frames.
Yeah, I hope that it's sort of extra month or extra few weeks of dev time. It's gonna, I mean, will allow them to iron out like whatever issues that like they can within that time. I hope it's not like like a pretty severe case of overwork.
Yeah, so we'll see what's coming out, and I think they have a separate dev team aside from their main DICE studio, kind of messing with Hazard, because I think they have a EA or a DICE Austin that was doing stuff with them, if I remember correctly. And then I think it's either that, or I know DICE has 2 studios that's doing stuff, and then they picked up a third one to help them with extra stuff, because like we saw that with Call of Duty, where they had like 4 people on just doing Call of Duty stuff, where one, like, it was like Raven Studios was only doing Warzone or Sledgehammer or whatever.
Yeah.
So we've been seeing support studios coming in a lot for these big releases. But hey, thanks for joining me, Austin.
Absolutely. No, thanks for having me. Right. It's always interesting to pick your brain about some Battlefield shenanigans.
Yeah, I've got big Battlefield thoughts. I think I've been playing them since like I was like a freshman or sophomore in high school, which was 12 years ago. But on a side note, we're going to be talking about Metroid Dread coming up as well, which you've been playing that, so I hope you'll join us for that episode as well, to anyone listening. And I'll catch you next time.